Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for the Moonlighting event, in which the Mydnight Innovator is added to the game. So, this week we have quite a few things going on. We not only have a brand new campaign, but also a brand new campaign format with the version 8.6 update, now that we can finally go and see it all in game. We technically got the update last Monday, but it didn't take effect until the weekly reset, which was today, when we end up getting the new campaign format. Beyond that, we also have the event calendar to go over for the entirety of July, and of course all the standard weekly teams and all of that. So let's start first with the 8.6 update with the new campaign. Of course, we can end up seeing this in the campaign menu. Main noteworthy thing is how the path works is a little bit different than before, as far as how you earn your stars. Before, you basically just had a bunch of tasks that would pretty much get auto-completed from doing pretty much anything within about half an hour or so. And they end up changing that a little bit. It does take longer now, but you do seem to gain more overall rewards. If you just look at the reward track, it's pretty comparable to before. Free side having a little bit less, but there is a different mechanic that brings in a lot of the rewards for the free side. But still has your weapons, still has the mythic, still has the pet to max, all the kind of standard things you kind of expect. It has a bunch of deep books on the paid side and the free side. While you don't get any from the star section on the free side anymore, it is a secondary thing with the new campaign task that we'll get to in a moment that does end up giving you them. And the most noteworthy addition is, of course, they ended up finally adding legendary shinies through the Guild War system. Well, now we finally have mythic shinies. Now whenever we end up getting the new campaign mythic, it will also come in with a bunch of shiny tokens, both on the standard paid side as well as the extended paid side, which are $10 and $25 total respectively, or regional equivalents. But yeah, they give you a bunch of shiny tokens now to go and get it upgraded, which of course give it as much as 2 lower mana costs, as well as a slightly better ability. In the case of this guy, I believe his better ability is probably going to be a better boost ratio based on curse gems, probably up to like a 14 or 16 or 15 or something similar, as far as how much extra damage it does per curse gem. And as far as this mythic itself, it's actually pretty comparable to that of a Megavore. It's basically alternative Megavore for more mana accumulation and lower mana cost, since it goes as low as 20. I believe Megavore is 24. But it doesn't have the insta-kill or impervious like Megavore does. It's also situational in that it has to secure a kill in order to do its effect, whereas Megavore will always do it 100% of the time. But overall, honestly, it's not that bad. Also gets to gain Bless and Enchant, which I guess kind of makes up for its impervious. So it's basically alternative Megavore. I feel like 9 times out of 10, you're probably still going to use Megavore, but still a nice addition to the game and covers a bunch of categories, particularly under the monster category, where you might end up utilizing. Actually, now that I say that, isn't Megavore monster? Isn't it Merfolk monster? Yeah, it is. Never mind. So that doesn't fill out anything in monster. I guess it does for divine. You know, have Megavore for divine in a sense. But yeah, they both have pretty comparable damage, but he has true damage, so he does almost like double. But the other guy's boost ratio makes up for it, so if you use the other guy with like Pharaoh, you could probably get enough boost ratio. But anyways, that's a new campaign mythic. Overall, yeah, a little bit more enticing compared to in the past, as this mythic is pretty good, and now you do start getting shiny tokens for it. But the main noteworthy two differences are how you earn stars, as well as these campaign tasks. So as you can see here, there are a billion tasks here. They do take a little bit of time to complete, however, keep in mind, these tasks right here over the course of a 10-week period. This is not like a weekly thing that you have to do every single week. This is simply, you have 10 whole entire weeks, however many days it says right there, in order to go complete all these. So some of these might seem like they take a little bit of time, but that's mostly because you have 10 weeks to go and complete it, which is a lot of time. You're probably going to get them all done automatically. There are a few that you might have to go out of your way for just a little bit, like killing daemons. You can just go to somewhere like Blighted Land, Cinder Mirage, just quick kill there. We'll have a team for that in a moment as well for things that can end up doing that. There's things like Heroic Gems that you might have to go out of your way for, though if you're just using Wand of Stars and or Stellarix, or even Pharaoh, you're probably getting this done automatically over time, so you probably don't need to go out of your way for it. But if you're not using any of those options, you might need to go do something that has a bunch of Convert Heroic Gems in order to go and spam that out. But most of these other things are just going to happen naturally, gaining a bunch of extra turns, taking a bunch of skulls, just winning a bunch of battles in general. They're pretty much things you're going to get just through the 10 weeks without really going every way. So very similar to before, you're likely going to get all the stars and all of the tasks done without really going out of your way, so that's pretty nice. All these tasks do have a bunch of different rewards here. Not sure what the total is, but I believe these do have deed books on them all the way at the end. I think like 1 deed book each or 2 deed books each, which is quite a bit of a buff. Because if it is 1 each, I believe that's as many as free players had before. However, paid players actually get more from Standard Pass, as there are 6 on the pass itself, as far as the Standard Pass, or the Standard Paid Pass. But then I believe there's also 3, probably 1 per each of these categories, for when you finally get to the end there. So you're free to play still getting the 3 deed books that you had before, assuming those are 1 each. However, paid players, I believe you're getting 3 more deed books compared to before, which is very solid. I'm going among a few other resources here and there. I'm not sure the full total of resource changes, but it did mention that it was a slight buff, and from what I can tell, yeah, it does seem like it is a slight buff. A little bit of shimmying around as far as what resources you get and where you get it from, but it does seem like overall by the end of it, you're getting ever so slightly better rewards by the end of it all. So, how do you get these stars? So these stars, you probably accumulated some just from, just normally playing. The system does take longer to end up completing compared to before. So before, you probably would have finished it in like half an hour, maybe even less, maybe up to an hour, just by doing whatever in the game and not need to worry about it. This, depending on how you play, you might have to go a little bit out of your way for it. Most battles in the game will basically earn you 1 of these stars. However, of course, if you're doing battles that are taking like 1 minute, 2 minutes long, this is like a 1-2 hour completion compared to before, where it's pretty much automatic. So if you want to go and get it done a little bit quicker, you can, of course, just spam Explore. Explore 1 will not work, however. You have to do at bare minimum at least Explore 4. If you're going to be doing this, given that Daemon is the current restriction for, not restriction, but the extra thing to kill during the season, you should probably be doing this on an Explore 4 in a location that is heavy with Daemons. Locations for this include Cinemirage, Karkaroth, Blighted Lands, pretty much anywhere where there's a lot of Daemons. In this case, we're just doing Cinemirage because it has some of the lowest durability. But keep in mind, it's not marked anywhere here, but you have to do at least difficulty 4 to get a star. You cannot spam 1, you cannot spam any of these. You can spam higher if you want, but of course the whole premise here is just to kill them out instantly. Is our whole game plan here. So we have 2 teams for this that we're going to be using. One is a higher rarity team and one is a lower rarity team. All teams will be in the description below. But as far as how we're going to be going about this, the high rarity team, we're just using a bunch of Pharaoh, using very high magic stats, and just instantly getting a kill to kill out everything. Ooh, there were a few that still don't die though. That's weird. I was getting so lucky earlier with all battles that it would one-shot. So I guess it kind of depends on your magic stat at a given time. But yeah, this was one-shotting like so consistently earlier. Let me try this again. I guess there are still some things that don't end up getting one-shotted by it. That's so weird. I tested so many battles earlier. Wait. You got it, right? There we go. Yeah, that's how most battles work. I guess there are still a few things that doesn't one-shot. But it one-shots most things. And of course, we have a pretty classic one as well, which is just use whatever hero class you need XP for: Rowan, Leprechaun, and Mirage Queen. Mirage Queen you get from throwing Chaos Shards to Sunken Fleet if you don't already have it, ideally with 50% mana start. One other thing you want to go do is set your metals to pure armor, so that you can end up having the bonus whenever you go and do this, so that Rowan can kill. Mine already does it without any of that armor, but of course earlier in the game this will ensure that you can one-shot Explore 4. So you get the Rowan from just completing out Forest of Thorns. Any hero weapon can be here, though if you want specifically Black Manacle, you'll just get it automatically from leveling up hero. Leprechaun just an ultra where you have to find a drop table, get him to empower, and just gives you a ton of mana instantly. And the only thing you kind of have to go out of your way for, if you don't already have, is storing Chaos Shards at Sunken Fleet. And again, this fully traded for the 50% mana start off of Elemental, which of course Rowan is an Elemental, so you can get that rolling. That's pretty much the game plan here. Pretty classic team. You just cast Leprechaun immediately, cast Rowan immediately, and then you end up winning. Also, whenever there's an extra turn like this, you can simply just go for that and don't even need to cast a Leprechaun. Otherwise, you cast a Leprechaun and just get your kill instantly. And the great part about this is you will gain class XP as well as the stars every single one of the battles. Plus, I haven't really been showing the stars because they show up all the way to the side there, but let me go show it. But yeah, we are getting 1 star per battle. And to my understanding, I believe this is the absolute quickest you could ever get stars. This is a quick kill Explore 4. Or any Explore level that you can one-shot with a pretty quick team. As you can see there, yep, we're getting 1 star per every single battle. Also getting class XP, and there's one of the rewards that just triggered. So we can actually go and claim that then from the new campaign system. Also keep in mind, it does overflow correctly from what I could tell. So for example, right here, this will probably say like 1 or 2 contribution to the next one. Let's see, we'll grab our deed books and... Oh yeah, it's been giving blue. Oh, you didn't hear. I think it was for some of the others. I guess I did the exact number. But yeah, there's one thing that is a little bit weird. I believe it's blue deed books, even though it says red. I saw some people on the forum end up mentioning that. So it seems like you probably end up getting 6 blue deeds, normal deeds, 3 Imperials probably, and then probably 3 blue deed books by the end, I would assume then. Which is not that bad. I can't remember exactly how many free-to-play got on the other end, as far as Imperials and everything. But I think that's an improvement. Isn't that more Imperials than before? Because that's 3 Imperials then for free side. Whereas I'm pretty sure before they had 0 to 2 or something. Somewhere's around there. So that's a little bit of improvement too among all the other small loots. But yeah, all these you should pretty much just get passively automatically just from playing the game for the most part. Some of them you can go out of your way for, but you probably don't need to go for it unless you just really want to rush them early, as 10 weeks is a lot of time to go and get them done. That is a very long amount of time. Unless you're like really short by the final 2 weeks, you probably don't want to go out of your way for it, unless you just really want to cash in on them early. But I would advise going for the long game as you just get it done passively. Anyways, beyond that, calendar. So that's everything with the 8.6 with a new campaign system. As far as the calendar, we have a handful of things happening this month. One being the 4th of July pet we have on this Tuesday. So you'll be able to go get that. It's a brand new pet. Make sure to go get that as when it returns again, who knows. There's also some returning pets that haven't really been targetable in a while. They have been available through various events, like this was available through money at one point. This one was available through gems, and the previous Legends were born. So a couple of these, yeah, this is the first time that they've ever been 100% targetable. You can still find them right now, literally in any pet battle you do. Or, you know, there's a chance when you do a pet battle you could find stuff like this. However, this is the first time a lot of these have been ever on the weekly Wednesday. So if you haven't gotten these in the past, great time to end up doing so. If I'm not mistaken, this one's for a Mythic too. Isn't this for Tina 9000? It's either for Tesla or Tina 9000. I'm pretty sure it's Tesla one. I mean, Tina 9000 one. So, yeah, bunch of pets that you can end up getting that haven't been around for a while. Beyond that, Vault Event Weekend this weekend to go along with the new Mythic. So if you don't end up getting the Mythic, you can end up farming the Vault Event Weekend in order to get everything you need. We do have a 2-week-long event thingy this month. However, there's not much really happening with it. It's just the event calendar. And what the event calendar basically means is money. Like almost every single day is just a money thing. And on the 7th day, you'll end up getting a free reward. So overall, this isn't really much. There's not really much to engage with. It's just a little bit of extra loot. Unless there's like some offers there you want to get. But most of the offers on this aren't really that worth it money-wise compared to other things within the game. And of course, Guild Wars has been a reoccurring thing now. This is what, the 4th new Guild War now. And of course, you'll be able to earn a new Legends then, or, you know, new Legendary Shiny then. And the next restriction is for Blighted Lands, which, hey, you'll be able to go get... no, never mind. I was going to say, you'll be able to get some Daemon kills, but never mind. You're the one using the Daemons. The enemies will not have Daemons on them. But yeah, the main thing to note with Blighted Lands, though, is unlike the previous month, we do not have any time between now and the event where you could target Blighted Lands troops. So, yeah, that's not ideal. So, of course, Shentang is not Blighted Lands. Olkari is not Blighted Lands. Mydnight is obviously not Blighted Lands. So, there is no way to target it. Well, I guess other than the faction. But, you know, every place is a faction. But there's no way to target really any Blighted Lands troops if you don't already have, like, the core team that you end up on and run for it. So, that could be a little bit of an issue, as this has happened quite a few times in the past, like with the Centaur restriction, Broken Spire restriction. Dwarf one's been the only one so far where it's actually been directly targetable beforehand. But, yeah, if you basically are lacking whatever troops you need, there isn't really a way to go out of your way for them, so that's a little unfortunate. It might make the Guild Wars a little bit harder compared to the previous one. But yeah, that's pretty much the month. Overall, pretty tame month, but at least we have the new campaign system. So, beyond that, let's go on to all the normal things. So, first things first, let's go over all of the teams. So we kind of already went over 2, but all the other things. World Event and Underspire team is exactly the same due to how the World Event works. You do have a lot of extra stats in the World Event, as well as a lot of extra mana accumulation, so you could technically change your team accordingly. But for the most part, you can literally just copy-paste whatever team you're using for World Event into Underspire, and you'll be fine this week. For the first team we have here, Haunted Doll with the high dodge into a bunch of mana accumulation. We're using Void Dragon, as this alone could probably solo every single battle if it really had to. Creates a lot of purple gems and doesn't need any kind of condition, so other than getting full mana. So once it gets going, as long as it doesn't miss horribly, it tends to keep going. Hand of Time, which on paper doesn't sound that good, but it does have auto extra turn once you get it max. So that's not that bad. It's weaker than Rope Dart, which is the same coloration and same mana cost and everything. However, in this context, when you're forced to have to use Mydnight weapons and Mydnight troops, it's not that bad. And then, of course, Immortal Ossifer. If you have him traded and upgraded, you have Curse Stun, you have a bunch of immunities. And, of course, the main reason you use him is for his big skull spam, while also having a bunch of true damage that you get to do with all enemies. Basically, just spamming them down with a combination of skull and spell, mostly spell damage, in order to go and win out the battle. For the lower rarity team, we are going a little bit more skull heavy, using the Strongman, which gains a bunch of life and attack, to be able to gain a bunch of durability. Fireline, which we're using to create a bunch of terror gems, which are basically just purple mana accumulation for your entire team, which is literally everything except the line itself. Temporal Scythe, which you should only be using if you can secure a kill with it, or sorry, if you have alignment with it, but it converts all gems to, sorry, both. Never mind, you have to get a kill and have alignment, which is a little bit annoying to have to use. However, when you do end up getting it, you get a ton of value. The main reason for this is, well, of course, you get to do enemy damage to all enemies. But if an enemy ends up dying, it converts all red gems to hourglass gems. So if you have at least 3 red yellows next to each other, you will gain an extra turn automatically, even if you're frozen on yellow, as the Hourglass Gem does bypass that mechanic, and you'll be able to go and gain your extra turn, kill them out, and yeah, be able to still be on your turn, get a bunch of mana accumulation, get all your purple mana again, and just repeat the cycle to kill everything else out. And of course, Immortal Ossifer, I do consider a low rarity troop. There are a few enough Immortals in the game that I do consider all Immortals to technically be low rarity, in the sense that 1 or 2 PvP seasons is all you need to go and get all of them. But if you do have Immortal Ossifer, great thing to end up adding. You might not have his traits and everything, but his ability alone is enough to do a lot of value. You have Skull Spam to help out your Strongman, and you end up getting the true damage. Also, I forgot, does this campaign actually have, not campaign, does this event have skull damage as well? It is only spell, so that is one thing worth mentioning, is you do not get the extra 160% skull damage per thing. However, I still think this is worth it for the durability to make sure you don't end up dying. And you will still be getting a ton of damage between Immortal Ossifer's true damage and, of course, the Temporal Scythe. And you are allowed to cast this, obviously, without alignment. It's basically like Black Manacle in that sense. It's just, if you don't get a kill, you just don't get the extra turn value and everything. But you can still cast it basically as a Black Manacle that doesn't have Devour, and it will function pretty similarly to what you've probably already been using in the past with that. As far as the faction, this is a red purple restriction. With that being said, we can run pretty standard Atlanta Quick Kill for the lower rarity team. And for the higher rarity team, we have access to Tesla, as well as this Thrall Leprechaun builds. In his case, is built like Stellarix and or Flower Dragon Quick Kill team here. But of course, you do have access to Tesla and any kind of Tesla build to go and build out there too if you need something cheaper, if you don't have Stellarix or Flower Dragon, or really any good damage source with Thrall or Leprechaun. As far as the Pure faction, we actually run it pretty similar to the other team where we're using Fire Lion into Strongman. The only real difference is we're using Ringmaster. He ends up creating his skulls, since obviously we can't use Ossifer, but he ends up creating a bunch of skulls boosted by Terror Gems. And if your team somehow ends up starting to die, he ends up summoning a backup Nightmare Circus troop. Another way to run this, if you want to run it a little bit safer, is to run 1 less Ringmaster and run 2 Strongmen. That way, if one of your Strongmen dies, you still have a backup Strongman while still having your Summoner. But you can run it either way, either double Strongman or double Ringmaster. You can even run of each if you really want to maximize your bonuses. As one pretty nice thing about this, I think I showed it on the other team, is this pure? Yeah, this one's pure. But you do gain quite a bit of magic from having a pure Mydnight team. So potentially worth considering if you really need that little bit extra magic to go all of them for the Underspire, as it will give you up to, I believe, about 6 extra magic, depending on how upgraded you have the pet, of course. So that might be worth considering compared to not running full, in which case you would just replace out Ringmaster for the other Immortal, as I don't believe it has a 5th yet. Still needs a 5th from a faction weekend event. Beyond that, Nightmare Hero class, we're basically just using a bunch of purple link to go feed Black Manacle. Pretty standard. Don't really have a good mana accumulator. We do have an Empower Skull, if you kind of want to go down that route. But beyond that, we don't have anything else that's like particularly quick, so just mana linking your weapon. It's probably going to be our main way to go. And of course, the teams we already showed is the high rarity and low rarity team for quick killing. We have ourselves an Atlanta quick kill team, and the all classic just Rowan quick kill, which is probably the one that I would assume most people are going to go for. It's just the classic. You could always put your hero on it to gain class XP for every class you don't have max. You could literally be any of them. Actually, this is still Nightweaver from when I was leveling Nightweaver. When I end up taking this, because I have one saved always down here. But I literally have it set to Nightweaver from when I was upgrading the Nightweaver class, because that was the most recent class added to the game. So, and it's also relevant for this week because it's 10% stats and it's the current event one, or, you know, for this Thursday and everything. But yeah, literally whatever class you need XP on, you just put this here with any weapon that doesn't block Rowan. Black Mana will be the most common. Then you run Rowan itself, which is the main kill condition on the team. A +2 blue +1 yellow, or sorry, a +2 blue +1 green banner effectively is +2/+2 because you're a leprechaun. So if you get a 4 times or 5 times on green or blue, you will have full mana to your Rowan without even needing to cast your leprechaun. Leprechaun gives you full mana immediately. And Mirage Queen just makes it so it's easier to get into Rowan, as it gives you starting of 6 mana rather than having it fill up 10 with a 20%. So it ends up going relatively quick. You just go, get your kill, and yeah, pretty standard for killing low rarity Explore. And now that you basically need to do 4 or higher to get your stars pretty much instantly, might be worth considering depending on how you want to go about the task, or if you just want to get it done immediately in order to start utilizing whatever you end up getting from the campaign as far as the rewards and free stats and everything. As it does take pretty much, I would say, twice as long to naturally get these stars if you don't spam Explore 4. So you either have to go out of your way for it if you still want to complete it as quickly as before, or you could get it done passively, but it's probably going to take you about 2-3 times longer depending on what content you're doing within the game to get it done passively compared to the previous format. Whereas all these campaign tasks you're also probably going to be getting done automatically. This is very similar to the previous system in that regard. It's just across 10 weeks rather than once per week when you have to end up doing it. It's just one big mega time that you have to do it all the way at the, it shows all the way at the beginning rather than, you know, pacing it week by week. Whereas the star system is still paced week by week like it was before. Anyways, other things. Oh yeah, I didn't check Soulforge earlier. Is there anything good in Soulforge this week? Let's see. Queen of Tanya, while good, generally not worth doing legends. There's better, or not better, but alternative Fairy Fire options now. A lot more of them compared to before. So even though she's still among one of the better Fairy Fires in the game, there are a lot of alternatives. Speaking of which, there's actually in here too. On paper, Fairy Fire Freeze is like twice as good as what she does. His ability is just so much worse though. So despite that, Queen Titania is actually used a lot more often than it. Cronus. This isn't the first time Cronus has been available, is it? No. This has to be the second. But Cronus is interesting. He's basically the strongest, I mean not the strongest, but definitely one of the better Hourglass mechanic troops in the game. He deals a bunch of damage to all enemies, converts all blue gems to Hourglass gems. So it has guaranteed Hourglass creation, unlike that one weapon we saw, which only does it when it gets a kill. So it's a pretty similar premise to what that weapon was, just for a higher mana cost, except it always does its convert. The other thing that's kind of interesting is it enchants all allies when I get an extra turn. So it is among one of the better enchanters in the entire game. And if I'm not mistaken, this works for any extra turn, not just board control extra turn. So even just taking an Hourglass gem off of a 3, I'm pretty sure triggers this, which is a rather unique mechanic that they haven't actually reused at all since him, which I wish they would. Because pretty much anytime you see a mechanic like this, it's always when it's a 4 times or 5 times. But this actually accounts for any extra turn, like at all, including Hourglass gems. Which of course was the whole gimmick for it, was that it would work with Hourglass gems. But it's a pretty nice mechanic. The only thing that's kind of counterintuitive to him is that enchant is really only good if you're missing a lot of turns. Whereas Hourglass gems are of course centered around the fact that you're not missing any turns. You're just infinitely extra turning from getting Hourglass into Hourglass. So it's a little bit of a conflicting system as far as how his traits works. There's a few other troops that are like this too, like Sycorax and stuff, where they're basically built around looping. Like their ability is meant around like looping infinitely, but their trait is based on skipping turns, which are two very opposite mechanics that do not work particularly well together. And for that, he tends to not get used that often. There's also some pretty good low rarity ones like Daughter of Time that realistically in an average team is probably going to do better than him. So there's just a lot of situations where you just wouldn't end up running him. And as far as weapons, unfortunately, nothing really to note here, even though I will always check these 2 out of paranoia that I will forget to mention them one week. But no, there is nothing to really go for here unless you're just looking to get things for killing out the week. I think the only one I showed in one of the teams was the Temporal Scythe. It's basically Black Manacle that has the ability to create Hourglass gems instead of Devour. It's not bad. More often than not, you're probably using Black Manacles instead. But it is a nice Black Manacle alternative if you're getting tired of using Black Manacle all the time. As this have Death Mark, does have extra turn potential over Black Manacle. Black Manacle I believe does with like a little bit of Destroy or whatever it does. But this has a much higher chance. If you get a kill with this, you are pretty much guaranteed if you do it at the right time. Because you'll know if there's a bunch of red gems next to yellows already. So if you know you're going to get a kill, you gain guarantee extra turn from this. If you already know you have alignment on the board. So the only bad thing with this is if you are going to get the kill but don't end up winning a battle, you could end up feeding the enemy a bunch of Hourglass gems, which is going to give them like 3 extra turns and a bunch of yellow mana. So there is that downside. The other big downside of that is Hourglass gems are yellow, and this weapon very specifically does not use yellow. So it does not feed mana back into itself, which means you would have to feed into a different mana accumulator that then feeds back into the Temporal Scythe. It does not itself feed back into itself. Whereas Black Manacle at least gets that little bit of like Brown Destroyer or whatever it has in order to go get a little bit of mana back into itself. Whereas this, it feeds mana into something else on your team that would then need to feed back into this weapon. But more often than not, you tend to have something on your team that can already do that. So that's normally not too big a deal, but something worth mentioning if you are trying to replace it out in any given Black Manacle related team. Aside from that, secondhand books, well, we did kind of go over this a little bit earlier. As far as a scoring system for this, we end up having spell damage for this. As far as a scoring system, don't take Ancient Horror. It's one of those where after 31 battles, you'll end up having all of them. It should be right here, yeah. After 31 battles, you'll have access to all of them, and the lowest one is the Ancient Horror. As long as you don't take Ancient Horror, you should be good to go. Just don't do Ancient Horror, and, well, unless you're forced to, because all the rooms are Ancient Horror. But keep doing every other room that isn't Ancient Horror until you only have Ancient Horrors left. And by the 31st battle, you'll eventually start whittling them down until every room is Ancient Horror, in which case you would just keep spamming the same room over and over and over again until you end up completing out the event. But yeah, just try to avoid Ancient Horror if you can. But of course, if you have all of these, just take whatever one is like closest to the button so you don't have to click as far. I normally do that to like the one right over here or something, as on both mobile and PC. It's probably not as big of relevant if you're on controller though, but on both PC and mobile, it's just easier to make sure that you do the lower one, as you just have to click a way less distance compared to if you did this one, have to click all the way to the top and then at the bottom. But I just find it a lot more convenient that way, and whenever the event is set up this way, so you can end up doing it like that. Beyond that, other things, chests, event key. So it is Mydnight. Is it worth opening event keys? No. Mydnight has some of the lowest amount of troops of any kingdom in the game. If I'm not mistaken, it's the most recent kingdom added to the game too, which is one of the issues with it right now, is there's just nothing in this kingdom. And because of that, there's not too much to really chase because there's so little currently within it. And some of the best things in the kingdom are not even available in the event key drop table either. So all the things that are not a drop table include the 4 faction troops that are from the Nightmare Circus, the Hierophant, which is only from the Vault Key drop table, and Immortal Ossifer, which is only from the Burning Chest from PvP. Oh, sorry, the other 2 tarot cards, there's actually 2 of them here. Both the Hierophant and Queen of Wands are only in the Vault Key drop table. And then Immortal Ossifer is in the Burning Chest from PvP. So I believe this is the first time you can event key for Archdruid Blackwood. Is he worth going to do? Not really, though I did use him personally on my Elemental Defend team for the most recent Guild War. Just because I kind of wanted that extra bit of Entangle in case they were going like Doomskull. But also because it's not that bad, has a decent amount of true damage. Ends up gaining a bunch of green, which you can feed into Essence of Evil, since you can't run Wanda Stars defensively. There's a little bit of free disease as well, so they get mana a little bit slower. It's not the greatest mythic in the game, but, you know, having Impervious while being able to entangle the enemies is not that bad. Even has a little bit of backup resummon on his stuff. Beyond that, though, if you were to event key for something, the main thing you're probably looking for is Void Dragon. It ends up dealing a bunch of damage to all enemies boosted by blue and purple gems, and creates a bunch of purple gems. It's basically in the category of Element Grim-like troops, except this one has no condition. So Element Grim-like troops, they generally require some kind of condition, like the enemy being burned, the enemy being cursed, your own team being blessed, stuff like that. But this one has the same amount of gem spawn, but none of the condition. So unfortunately, it could do a low roll, like 9, unlike the other ones that would always high roll if you meet the full condition of 13. However, the nice thing about this is since you don't have to meet any condition, it'll always be the same strength of doing roughly about 11 on average every single time. So even though it could be weaker at some times, it doesn't end up getting mitigated. Because in the case of the other ones, like that boost based on enemies, when enemies start dying, let's say you kill 2 of them, and there's only 2 left, your boost ratio goes down a ton. Because in best case scenario, the best you could get in that situation would be 11. Whereas this thing, even if you kill 2 enemies, 3 enemies, you're still getting potentially up to, you know, 11, 12, even 13 gem spawn. The biggest issue that tends to happen with it is the low end rolls, of course. If you keep rolling 9 or 10 for only 24 mana costs, or for the high amount of 24 mana costs, he tends to do pretty bad. But as long as you're getting lucky with the rolls, he tends to do a lot. Gains a bunch of magic from taking purples as well. Has a little bit of a mix reduction as well. And overall, not that bad. Very similar to that of all the dragons that we've been getting for like the flower dragons and celestial dragons. It's kind of in that category, except you don't need any dragonite to end up getting this. But it is, of course, a mythic, so the chance of getting it through event key drop table is pretty slim. And given that this kingdom doesn't have much else beyond that, I probably wouldn't really bother event keying, because every other drop that you're pretty much getting from this place is not really that useful. There are a few things that are kind of gimmicky, like the Inflict Terror per extra turn, while having a double Doomskull convert. And we have things like the 45% dodge. But unless you're using it for a specific event like this week, they don't really get used that much. Like, you're almost never bringing this out for the 45 dodge. You're pretty much never bringing this out for the terror, unless you're building like a really specific Doomskull converty team. The only thing you would really use here are the 2 mythics. And they're probably not worth going out of your way for. Maybe if you want to go for a kingdom upgrade and you need one of them for that upgrade, maybe throw event keys to try to get one or the other. And whatever one you get. As they're both useful, if nothing else. Both the 2 mythics here are actually usable. Technically Ossifer too, but he's not a drop table. But both the 2 mythics here are pretty usable. So if you end up getting one over the other, it's not really a disappointment. They just have different use cases depending on what you need. Whereas the dragon is more of an offensive option, whereas the other one is still offensive, but more of a support troop for your team. Anyways, beyond that, of course, we do have a new troop. The new troop is awful, though. So as far as this new guy is concerned, he ends up creating either 6 terror gems or bomb gems. Bomb gems being almost negative value. Terror gems, I guess, not being horrible. Biggest issue with this is terror gems do not feed back into him. They are purple gems, and he does not use purple. and it ends up exploding 1 gem, which in the case of bomb gems could technically set off a chain reaction. In the case of terror gems, it's not really doing much at all. It's kind of weird in that regard. But yeah, it's just a really weak troop. Has blue link, I guess, so for a little bit of value. But overall, even in a midnight restriction, I don't really see using this. Even in a low rarity kind of category, it just does not seem worthwhile to bother bringing them out when there's just so many other low rarity teams that you can already end up utilizing with stuff from the kingdom that you're probably never really going to need to go and bring them out for a team this week or even ever. But anyways, guys, that's a full rundown on everything. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Of course, I'll probably link in the description a link to the calendar if you want to go and reference anything with it, as well as, of course, we did a full reading for the changelog. So if there was anything you wanted to go check with that with the campaign or have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on it too. If you like the new format, rather average to it, hate it compared to before. Overall, I don't know, I haven't gotten to try it too much yet. I haven't even hit the 100 for the week yet, which is that was so much slower. It is so much slower. If you're not going out of your way to complete this, like let's say you're doing PvP and your battles are taking, I don't know, like almost a minute each. Like that's over an hour and a half to go complete this now. Whereas before, I think I was getting it done as quick as like 15 minutes some weeks, 20 minutes, something similar. So yeah, it is a lot longer to end up completing out. But of course, you still have the explore option. Things like Rowan Quick Kill, similar teams, we're talking like 3 wins, 4 wins a minute. So when you're putting it that way, we're talking like 25, 30 minutes to complete it, which is pretty comparable compared to before. But the exception to that is you're going out of your way to complete it, whereas before you did it without even thinking about it. You still will. Obviously, if you do every single daily in a given week, you will easily get it done without even thinking about it. However, if you want to try to rush it down because you want the stats or any kind of given reward, like if it's the Mythic week or something else, yeah, you're going to have to do quite a bit more battles than you did before. You know, quite a bit more time investment, unless you're going out of your way to like quick explore to go get your points that you need. But yeah, it's definitely a different format. Seems like it pays you out a little bit better as far as overall rewards. Just gives you a bunch more objectives to do throughout the season. Technically gives you a big grind at the beginning if you really wanted to go grind. I wouldn't advise doing that as you have 10 weeks, but you know, there will be people that will try to finish this literally today. There will definitely be some amount of people that already have literally all these done by the end of today. But of course, you have a whole another 69 days to go and get it done. So I personally wouldn't rush it as unless you like need it for a kingdom upgrade or something like the deed books or something. But otherwise, I would just get it over time since it'll just be way easier to do passively rather than rushing it down. But anyways, guys, I'll wrap it up for now. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave it below. I will catch you guys later. And of course, tonight we'll be streaming, messing around with the campaign, getting the rest of the stuff, and messing around with the world event. Hope you all have a wonderful week. And of course, we'll have a video this Friday going over the new Mythic, which I believe is a Goblin Mythic. I haven't actually seen it because I don't believe the spoiler thread thing he had it on it. But anytime there's a new Goblin, it has potential. So we'll see what this Mythic Goblin ends up doing if it does end up coming out then. As, yeah, that's pretty strong. Anything that's ever a Goblin has a lot of potential. So, actually, what was the most recent one? I think, not Ossifer, what's his name? That one, the burning one. Omni? Why do I forget his name? But, I think he was the most recent one. I personally don't use him that often, but he's pretty nice. Yeah, Flaming Omni. But yeah, it's like basically resummons a whole team of goblins, which as a category is so good. And just does a bunch of explodes with auto extra turn. Like pretty much no goblin they ever add completely misses, especially at the higher rarity range. So it's definitely going to have some amount of potential, whatever ends up being. So we'll end up seeing what kind of builds we can end up building out of it. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you all later. Bye, everyone. And thanks for watching.